Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Let's see here. Uh, chat. Let's see. Hello,
It's Aspen Dental's everyday.
hello, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well, and you?
Oh, I'm in pretty good shape for the shape I'm in.
Round is a shape, right?
Indeed, indeed, and I wear it well.
I'm the one wearing it round. That's all I can say.
Well, we'll
And the
agree.
red face and the double chins. But hey.
You got all the bases covered there. All right. Well, welcome to FPC Richmond.
Thank you.
And we're about 3 minutes early, so I'm just going to turn this light off over here because I'm dark enough on my own. All right. Now, I usually would start this at least about 5 minutes earlier than I did. But, life happened.
And there you are. Tell me about it. Sometimes people say the 26th when they really mean the 25th. And then you have to think, oh, well, I guess I'll just pour more wine and start cooking.
Well, I'm glad that there's no shortage of wine on your side of Morgantown. By the way, I am in Morgantown.
Oh, yay.
For people who are viewing, Hope and I are actually cooking about 5 miles away from each other. Right? So thanks again, COVID-19.
And there you have it.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna give us just a little bit of traveling music as excuse me, as folks come in,
Great.
and this is a song and or recording that you may or may not recognize.
Alrighty.
So.
I mean, this.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, Doc. All right.
Yay.
Well, that's I of course I'll tell, some stories about when we met and such. But that is the voice of Dr. Hope Koehler, who now you see on screen with me. Hope is a professor of voice at the great West Virginia University. And we have been singing buddies, I think, since about 2008, which would have been when we met through the American Spiritual Ensemble in Lexington, Kentucky. So, welcome. Just for the viewers' information, there are two Doctors Koehler in the house, and they are both voice professors. So it is it's fun to chat with you and be confused in two languages at the same time as I read your shirt. Oh dear. So tell us what are we cooking tonight? But before I do, I just have to say this session that we're doing is actually a part of what we call J-Term at First Pres, where there's no Sunday school, but the staff and certain lay leaders um, engage in some classes that might be of interest to the congregation. So
Awesome.
thank you for being a
You're
part.
welcome. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not really a cook, so anything I cook has to be fakey, which this is. So, this is called fake naan. So it's basically fake naan. We're gonna make bread that looks like naan, but isn't. Okay.
Well,
So
fried bread is always a winner.
it's a winner chicken dinner.
So,
So here's what we're gonna do. I got stuff measured out. I had 40 minutes. Okay, so I got stuff measured out.
should I tell that story or will you?
Well, Jason asked me to do this. Last week or a week before, something like that. Anyway, he told me it was on Wednesday, the 26th. So then he texted me just like at 5:30 or something and said, "Did you get the Zoom link I sent you?" And I'm like, "Sure, I did." He said, "Oh, it's tonight, I'm like, "What?" Anyway, so you see me. I was going to be all Donna Reed and stuff, but now I'm just me instead. So maybe that's better. I don't know. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I have my skillet, my iron skillet right here. I have about maybe 2 tablespoons of oil in here. You can use olive oil. I'm using peanut oil because,
You're fancy.
And I'm going to turn the eye on to about, it says medium heat. So on my stove, which by the way is like the curse of all cooks everywhere, it's electric and it's a ceramic top stove. So I'm turning it to about 6, between 5 and 6-ish. So
okay.
Medium. And it takes forever for it to heat up. So I'm going to do that now and let it be heating up while I'm mixing all this stuff up.
Okay. Well, I am actually not cooking with a cast iron skillet tonight. Long story, but I'll get mine going because in a while because it probably won't take as long as yours.
Right.
Will.
So,
sidebar: as we're preparing to cook this Indian thing, because I'm a nerd, and because Trinidad and Tobago, where I'm from, has a large East Indian descendant population, I thought I'd share. Of course, here in America, we have cast iron skillets, but in East Indian culture, they have something called a tawa. And a tawa looks like this. It's basically a cast iron skillet
griddle,
without
right?
any. Right. It's basically a griddle, and of course it took me until I was today years old to put that together.
Well, this would work great on a griddle. Obviously, you could also do it on a grill if you wanted to put something across a grill and actually do it that way. The recipe actually doesn't call for oil in the pan. It actually says to grease the pan, but here's my thing. It smokes up the entire house when you do that. So, and I like oil anyway, so I'm just gonna put a little oil in here and actually fry the bread instead of grilling it.
What do you think about butter versus oil? Does that matter?
It will be great. You just have to be careful because butter burns more easily.
Right.
So you just be careful with how long you have it in there and the heat that you have it at. Okay, so this is 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and I'm putting in this little sifter deal here. And I'm going to add, the recipe calls for self-rising flour, but I don't like this with self-rising flour. It's better with all-purpose flour. And I'm
lazy, so we will be eating the self-rising flour version.
Okay. So I'm gonna put 2 teaspoons of salt because if you don't put any salt, it's a little bland. So that'll be that. These can go over there, and the scullery maid can take care of that. Okay, so if only I had a scullery maid, wouldn't that be awesome?
I'm just finding some salt here.
Just sift it in, takes a minute. You should know, if I didn't already tell you, that the most important ingredient in this is the cook's wine. That's
okay. Yeah, you skipped that one.
Okay, and then I'm going to put a cup of Greek yogurt. This is full milk yogurt.
Now I need to get mine out.
Right in here. And because I didn't have 2 cups, I'm going to make 2/3 of a cup and 1/3 of a cup. So, improvisation is the tool that's best for every cook. Okay.
There are no mistakes, just interpolations.
Exactly. So now I'm also going to leave out the yogurt because chances are good when I start mixing this, I will need more. Because sometimes it's too dry. So if it's too dry, just put a little more yogurt in.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put this in the mixer.
Oh, you have
This
a
is my
little
Christmas
fancy.
present.
You're like an adult.
I don't know if you can see over here. Yeah, I can sort of. Maybe I should. It's far away, but anyway. This mixer was my Christmas present. I was very excited about it.
Nice.
And I'm going to start kind of slow because if you don't start slow, the flour goes all over the house. Nothing will matter because by the time we're through, I'm going to have flour on every surface in the kitchen and all over me too.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Well, while you use your fancy mixer, I'm going to use this one that I've had for over 30 years.
Dump this out the first time. I'm going to put it on this cutting board because I'm going to end up cutting it in pieces. But once I've done that, I'm going to move the cutting board and just use the countertop.
Okay.
A rolling surface.
I love naan. I mean, I love Indian food in general.
I do too.
But I tell people that bread is the reason that I'm fat.
That's just because I like to eat, period. Just food generally, if there's not good available, I'll just eat whatever there is.
I mean, I could take or leave sweets, but you put some bread or some pasta in front of me and we have a problem.
Yeah, this actually turned out pretty good. Easier. So you want to mix it until it's kind of like this, kind of a,
I think I might need a little bit more flour.
Yeah, you might.
Because mine is a little bit stodgy.
So you want it to be kind of a little bit of a tough dough because you're going to knead it after you pour it out.
Right.
For a couple of minutes. So pour it out when you're finished onto a floured surface, lightly floured.
For as much as I enjoy cooking, I have always avoided baking and most things involving flour like the plague because I don't have the patience to get it just right.
Right.
I want to open the door and see how it's doing.
Just going to knead it a couple minutes until it's kind of smooth.
I'm still at the adding flour stage.
So you go for it. I'll wait for you.
You must be really good at this.
I've practiced a couple times, because I heard I was going to be on Zoom.
Live of all things.
Live on Zoom.
Yeah. So you are one of the, I think it's fair to say, nation scholars on the music of John Jacob Niles.
I do love it.
Who, for lay people who may not realize that they know who that is, He's the guy that wrote "I Wander as I Wander."
Yeah.
It's fun to get young singers to differentiate those two words.
Yes, it is.
But what sparked your interest in his music originally?
Well, in general, I really like music that tells a story. And, most of his music, or at least the earlier music, is in the folk song style.
Right.
And he went around, he collected all manner of fragments of songs, and then he wrote them down, and then he would create full songs from those fragments. And as a result, his songs are so authentically folk-like, that many of his songs are misattributed as traditional Appalachian folk songs.
Huh.
So that's kind of, I had a good discussion with a guy just recently about that. And so it's interesting. But yeah, he did actually write that song, and he collected a fragment, and then he created the song around the fragment. So
That is interesting.
that happened in a lot of his work, and as a result, a lot of people were like, did you like write this, or did you plagiarize it, or did you just, So, in his lifetime, he had issues with getting respect for the work that he did.
Right.
Later in his life, he moved more toward art song style.
Right.
Like his songs on poems of Thomas Merton, the Trappist monk, who was also in Louisville, which is where Niles was born. He ended up living outside of Lexington at the end of, life, Boot Hill. But he traveled all over the world. So.
Right. He studied some in France, did he not?
Yep, he did, in Lyon and in Paris. So interesting stuff. You can hear in some of his works that have not really been published or recorded until I recorded them, actually. Especially in a song called "The Cypress Tree," you can really hear the French influence in that one.
Well, I just in relatively recent years, I would say, was struck by how much of a storyteller he himself was.
Right.
In the way that he sang.
Exactly right.
I think probably my favorite thing of his that's available on YouTube. See, this is why I don't mess with flowers. Is a piece called "Hangman."
Yes, honey.
And I mean, as he goes through those verses, you can just, you can imagine the mother pleading for her son.
Exactly. His sort of ethereal, haunting, weird sort of voice also.
Yeah.
That affect. So, but he wrote his music with classical singers in mind.
Right.
Good many of his songs were written for Gladys Swarthout, who was a singer, a classical singer, an opera singer, pretty well known at the time. And he envisioned classical voices singing his music. So,
well, and I mean, other than the fact that you are you, that's why you sing them so well. So, I think I have just one more shake of flour getting in here before I'm ready to go on to the next step. I should have practiced this before today myself.
Make it into a sort of rectangle or square when you can get it dry enough and tough enough.
Miles has started this thing where he just runs through the house and screams.
Excellent.
Just for no reason. I'm like, Miles, what's going on? Oh, I'm a raptor.
I'm a raptor. I love that.
So, all right. I think this is just about usable now. By the way, I don't know if I ever told you this, but you are responsible for a great deal of why my life is the way my life is.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, it's
I hope that's a good thing.
well, I'll let the viewers
Some
decide.
days.
But we were backstage getting ready to perform a concert of music by Niles
Yeah.
at the theater downtown in Lexington, Kentucky. And I was talking to Jim Douglas about, maybe going to grad school, and your little recruitment antenna just went all the way up.
That's right. I'm like, wait a minute, why are you gonna go all the way to North Carolina?
And it was like, sir. Okay, so you said I'm making a rectangle.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
And am I doing that with my hands or with the rolling pin?
With your hands first.
Okay.
So you just want to knead it until it's nice and moldable, basically.
Uh-huh.
Should have put this away while I was talking to you.
You just angle this down a little bit.
My yogurt back in the fridge. Hang on.
To get some of this flour off of me. But my first time meeting you and Mr. Dr. Koehler was for an American Spiritual Ensemble gig.
Awesome.
And I remember us rehearsing in the chapel at First Pres in Lexington. And this.
Now, hold on. I'll interrupt your story.
Huh?
You're gonna roll this out.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Until it's about a quarter of an inch. I hate rolling on this thing. Quarter of an inch thick-ish.
Okay.
Cut it in pieces. Okay. So.
Okay.
Keep it as rectangular as I can.
Do you know what I forgot to do?
What you forgot to do?
I forgot to light my stove.
Oh, now do that now. You still have time, because it's going to take us a minute or two, because we're not done rolling yet.
Okay.
So we're going to cut it in pieces, and then we're going to roll each piece. So it's going to take a minute.
So do we leave this for any length of time to do a little bit of rising?
No, because it's a quick bread, so it doesn't need all that.
Okay.
No yeast or anything other than what's in the yogurt, I guess. So we're just going to roll it out more or less, about a quarter of an inch thick.
Uh-huh.
As close to a rectangle as we can manage.
Right.
And then I'm going to take my big knife because, I don't have one of those fancy pastry thingies. I'm going to take my big knife and I'm going to cut it right down the middle.
Okay.
And then I'm going to cut it in the middle again on each side. That. So there are 4 sections across. And then I'm going to cut it right in the middle crossways like this. Okay?
Uh-huh.
Then I'm going to put it this way. And then I'm going to put all these little pieces on this plate over here. And I'm going to get rid of this cutting board and use my countertop for rolling the rest.
For rolling the rest?
Yeah, so here's what we do. All right, we're going to put some flour out, It does not matter how much flour I put on here. Sometimes it's just going to stick, that's all. So that's what always happens. Okay, so now I'm going to take each piece. And this one is kind of a funky shape, so I'm just going to sort of fold it up a little bit, make it a little bit more square or rectangular, as case may be.
Okay, so you're actually folding
the rough edges in, just so it looks more like a rectangle.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have a lot of folding to do here.
Okay. And then I'm going to roll it out until it's paper thin. this way, crossways and ways. And see, I told you it's gonna stick to my rolling pin. Don't matter what I do. Don't stick. I'm gonna make it just as thin as I can. I'm gonna take this butt plate that's hiding under here and put it on there. Cooking those like that. Okay. So this one is more or less a rectangle, so I'm just gonna have to fold it. I'm just gonna roll it out. Get Joe ready. What the heck I'm doing?
All right. So you're rolling this, you said, until it's paper thin.
Paper thin. Thin as I can make it.
Okay.
Still peel it off my rolling pin. Not sticking in my rolling pin. Okay, so
You got to put some flour on the rolling pin too.
I did.
You know, I actually have at my place in Richmond a non-stick rolling pin.
Wouldn't that be amazing? This one's supposed to be non-stick, but yeah, whatever.
Oh dear. So, how did you and Mr. Dr. Koehler meet?
Oh my goodness, that was so long ago. Actually, you know, we met singing an opera. Well, actually, we met before we sang an opera together. We met when I was singing an opera in Duluth, Minnesota, and he was a friend of one of the castmate members. He came. Now, don't tell him that I remember this because he's convinced that we met 3 times before. Don't mess that up. So we met. That was, you know, 1 year, and then it was a summer opera. Went back the next summer, and we saw each other again. And then I was singing an opera that summer too. He was not in the opera that year. He came up with his friend again, same guy. And then he was living in Minneapolis at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The following year, that summer, we sang Carmen, and he sang one of the smugglers. So we were on stage together, spent a fair amount of time together, and that was sort of when the whole story started to change.
So Bill was a smuggler. That's such typecasting.
Not wrong. Okay, here we go. Come on with the flour. This is why I have flour on every surface in my kitchen when I do this.
Well, you know, I'm beginning to regret agreeing to this. I mean, I'm clumsy enough with flour as it is. Well, this is not a rectangle, but it's bread, so.
Oh, God, look at this. Does this look like a rectangle to you? I like Minnesota. Okay. On the side. Okay. Flour. I've got a shirt that doesn't have flour on it. I won't know that. Goes in there teaching studio class.
Oh, nice. Oh, so his is on Tuesdays?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how did you wind up teaching at WVU? Because you did your doctorate at Kentucky.
Yes, and while I was doing my doctorate at Kentucky, I was teaching full-time also at Transylvania.
God bless you.
Yeah, and raising 2 children and going to school full-time. Anyway, that's another whole nightmare of a story. But so then Well, thing in Transylvania sort of petered out, and so I started looking for work, and I found a job at the University of Minnesota Morris, of all places.
Oh,
So that's way out in western Minnesota.
that's very different than West Virginia.
Holy mackerel! If you look at a map of Minnesota and you look on the western border of Minnesota, there's a little bump on the western border.
Uh-huh.
Morris is right in that bump. So
Okay.
that bump, Morris would be in South Dakota. Just saying. So anyway, so we were there for 3 years. It was extremely Minnesotan. Oh yeah, you know everybody there is really kind of people, you know. But yeah, they're very you know, over nice. They're very nice. I was kind of ready to move on to another position, and I started looking around. And actually, probably wouldn't have done it when I did, except I was singing an opera over in Duluth, and one of the people in the orchestra said to me, "You know, we have an opening on our vocal faculty, and you know, why don't you apply?" So I did, and by golly, they hired me. So then I was at University of Wisconsin Superior.
Not inferior, but superior.
Superior, which is right across the lake, right across the bay, really, from Duluth. So all the signs on the Duluth side say, "Next to Duluth, we're Superior." So anyway, I was there for 2 years, and I was not looking to leave, although I did have a goal, you know, being at a land grant university where you know, graduate students and things. And so my boss, well, the director or the director, but the chair of the music department, came and showed me an ad that she'd seen, and she said, "I really don't want to show you this, but I feel like if I don't, I'll be cheating somehow." An ad from West Virginia University, and they did 2 voice faculty, a man and a woman.
Oh, wow.
So Bill and I both applied. And at the time, they hired me, but they didn't hire Bill right away. Turns out, even though they won't admit it, they were apparently looking for a tenor, and Bill's a bass, for those of you who know. Because the only people they interviewed were tenors.
I see.
They no, we weren't actually looking for a tenor, but the only people they talked to were tenors. One of those tenors was Jeremy Katie, which I thought was interesting.
Really?
Yeah, so that was kind of cool. Anyway, so we moved there, and during the course of the first semester that I was teaching there was a teacher who was she was part-time in voice and part-time in music ed. So she had a full-time position, but not a tenure track one.
Right.
Well, she kind of ran into an issue during the course of that first semester I was there where, you know, she stopped coming to school.
Oh, that's a fairly major one.
That was problematic. And at first her students were like, "Oh, yeah, no lessons." And then like a week later, they're like, "Are we ever in lesson again?" And then the third week, they're, "When are we having lessons?" Had to, you know, they wrote to her and they said, "Is there anything we can do? Do you need a leave of absence? Can we, you know, how can we help you? You know, what's going on? Blah blah." And finally, they said, "You know, if you don't show up by 9 o'clock on Monday or whatever it was, you know, we're gonna have to terminate your contract." And
wow.
so then they were without voice, so they hired Bill as an adjunct, and also at the time Nick Perna was teaching, and his wife Mandy is also a DMA in voice, so they hired her also So they had 2 adjuncts teaching voice and then 2 full-time people.
Okay.
So as we have stayed there, the program has grown, not surprisingly. And so now we have 4 full-time voice people, one of whom is Bill. So that's kind of great. And we also have 2 voice GAs teaching voice and 1 voice GA who's helping in the opera program. So our program has grown quite a lot.
Right.
From those days back then. So yeah, that's how we got here. And I was really happy to be south of the Mason-Dixon line, even if I am only like 6 miles south of it.
Now, when you got to WVU, was Mr. Benner still fairly active, or?
He was still coaching people from his home.
Okay.
He wasn't teaching anymore. Robert Teamy was teaching that.
Right. For the folks who might not know Mr. Benner, huh?
Now that I have these all rolled out skinny, like, I'm gonna put them in the oil.
Okay.
Let them cook long enough to sort of bubble up, a couple minutes, and then turn them over.
Well, I'm gonna throw some oil in my pan and do likewise.
These are gonna be all kind of weird shapes because they just came out weird, that's all.
Oh, honey, mine are gonna be the non-equivalent of a Spalding donut.
Okay.
Ugly as hell, but hopefully it'll taste good.
Exactly. You know what? Spalding donuts are the devil. That's all. They're addictive and brilliant. Best donuts ever.
All right, let me get on this.
See this pan? Can you sort of see that? I think you can.
Yeah, we can. I'm gonna do some olive oil.
Perfect. That will be delicious.
Of course, like butter, olive oil tends to burn quickly.
But if you're not cooking at a super high heat, so it should be okay.
I think I might improvise just a little bit and put some diced garlic on the last few.
Yes, honey. You know it. That's what I'm talking about. I have made this with like dried fruit. So you actually slice the fruit really, really thin and mix it in the dough.
Oh.
It comes out kind of a sweet naan then.
Okay. Mm.
Really good with figs and dates.
I shall have to give that a go. So you said you had how much oil in your pot?
Just a couple of tablespoons.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm also fixing some chicken curry to go with mine.
Oh my goodness. I have stove in. I'm just saying.
Oh dear.
Development does not have gas. I'm like, really? You can't, really? Gas in the whole development, really? So.
By the way, if there's anybody out there watching us live, I mean, this, as I said, is kind of in the midst of J-term, but if anybody is watching live and you have some questions that you want to throw at me or Hope, feel free to drop them in the chat and I will see them. But let's see here how it goes. Now mine is sizzling. Does that mean I'm too hot?
Well, make sure it's medium. I mean, if you put it in, it sizzles a little bit. That's okay. You just don't want it to get black before it gets done.
Okay.
Because I have cooked it too hot, and then it was like, no, that didn't work too well.
Right. Yeah.
So this takes a minute, but it really tastes good once it's done.
Well, I hate for the good folks down there at, I think they're called Mint Leaf now. I'll be buying one less item off of their menu if this turns out to be any good.
Well, if like I said, there's a lot of different ways to vary it and everything. So you can do all kinds of things to it. So.
Oh, I'm not nervous about your instruction. It's flour and I'm cooking. So there you have it.
This is sort of what it looks like, if you can see.
Oh, let me get back. Okay. Well, I don't think I'm far off, but I think that the difference in my finish will probably be due to using self-rising flour.
Yeah, they may be a little thicker.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, they may be a little saltier too, which might be nice. I don't know.
Do that for another few seconds. So I'm going to pull up a picture here, and I want you to tell us about this cutie.
That's Kiri Te Papawa. Where is she?
And might she be making an appearance this evening?
She is, right here.
Hey, Kiri.
Hi, Mr. Jason. Say hi,
Hello, hello.
She was sound asleep. And I woke her up. It was really rude.
Well, this is what I've got.
Oh, okay. It looks good.
I feel like I should have 2 or 3 skillets going at once.
Smart. Kiri will be eight months old on February 9th. So she's
Oh, wow.
a young one.
And how old was she when you got her?
She was 7 weeks old when I got her.
Okay.
She was big enough to fit in one hand practically.
And under whatever this is.
Okay, that's her bed under my desk at work.
Oh, nice.
She's asleep under my, she goes in the studio. She goes with me. I was there last week preparing for this week, and she went with me. And when I start teaching again in person, which I hope will be in March, I will have the vaccine all effective by then.
Right.
The first dose already, so I'm just for the second one. But anyway, she will go with me. My aide, my teaching aide.
I was about to ask if she offers her opinion on students' progress.
So far not. She's been very, very nice about things. But we'll see when she's in the room with them. So far, she's been hearing them over Zoom. So.
Well, that'll hit her very differently.
She'll be very excited when they come because she loves people and she loves for them to come visit her. And we've got her all fixed up in the studio there. She has a bed, she has her bowls, etc.
Very good. I think I need to re-grease my pan.
Yeah, I have to add oil every once in a while.
I have also.
That's her bathrobe. With Mr. Dr. K, of course.
I was about to ask if the bathrobe was the guy in the green thing or. So when we have you to sing at First Pres, after this pandemic business is over, what can we expect to hear? Are you working on anything while there's nowhere to sing?
Well, singing. When was the last time I actually sang? I sang for the Martin Luther King Day celebrations here.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really the only singing I've done in forever and a day. So I don't know. I'll have to come up with something.
Okay. But I'm glad you mentioned singing on MLK Day because, as I mentioned earlier, we met as colleagues in the American Spiritual Ensemble, and you are yourself a voice teacher um, at what is fair to call a predominantly white university. How do you handle and this is a question that is mainly for my choristers. How do you handle as a white person singing Negro spirituals?
I was just answering this question online the other day. That's very interesting. You should ask. But it comes up from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
My feeling is this: spirituals, while they were created, they were born during a time of terrible oppression by a people who were in an unbelievably horrible situation. And yet, these people who were oppressed, who were mistreated, who were considered less than human, still managed to seed beauty and passion into the world.
Yeah.
And not only did they do that, but they also used this beautiful music to speak with one another in ways that nobody could understand but then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Code music. For me, that's such a genius thing to do. It's brilliant. And my feeling is that we all must sing these songs for a couple of reasons. One, it's important for us to remember. It's important for us to remember the stories that are told by these songs so that we never fall into a habit of mind that allows us to imagine that it's okay for one person to treat another person as if they're less than human and to own that person, right? But also, it's important because because we need to honor the minds that created this beautiful music. We need to honor those people who were so resilient, who were so determined to prove, not only, that they were worth something, but transcended that. They weren't just human. They were artistic. They were passionate. They were beautiful. They were engaged. I mean, these are the things that I just think we have to honor. We have to honor that.
I agree. I've been struck in my own research into spirituals that I've never encountered an angry one.
Right, exactly right. You hear songs about sorrow.
Yep.
You hear songs about pain sometimes. You hear songs about celebration. You hear songs of love, songs of faith, songs of hope, songs of joy. But you never yet have I heard a song of hate. Not once.
Well, I'll tell you right now, if they snatched me out of my home and took me to a whole other country where I didn't know anybody or the language or any of that kind of, my song would have been "Lord Help Me Kill NASA."
See, that's it.
That's me. That is me.
It's remarkable to me. It's amazing. So yeah, I think it's important, and not beyond that, the spiritual is really the rich earth in which all other indigenous American musical forms are planted. So if you listen to, I just have this wonderful sort of juxtaposition that I found online of Kathleen Battle singing "Over My Head," and then right after that plays Sister Rosetta Tharpe singing "Over My Head."
Yeah.
In a 8-bar blues.
Huh.
So you can see the spiritual becoming, feeding and becoming, evolving into the blues. And from the blues grew rock and roll. I mean, Elvis Presley, hello?
Right.
All these people. And from rock and roll and also jazz came from the blues. All that grew right up out of the spirituals. All of it did. You can even find connection to American musical theater in the spirituals.
Absolutely.
So I think that it's such an American art form, and it's important for us to honor that, to recognize it, to sing it, and to remember. That's how.
You know, a few years ago, I wrote some program notes for the National Chorale not too long after Dr. McCorvey took the reins of the organization.
Mhm.
And in it, I wrap things up by, I mean, of course, with the exception of the music of the Native American,
Right.
uh, that this is America's first music.
Right. This is the first, apart from that, first the indigenous people, this is the first indigenous American music. So, you know, and it has informed every other art form, every other musical form that has come up in this country. So I think it's worth singing. I think it's worth remembering. And I think it has to be honored.
Yeah.
And obviously, to honor it, we must sing it as authentically as we're able. You know, so.
Well, that's a whole other summer course right there. What does it mean to be authentic with that music? So
that brings up the whole issue of, do you sing it in dialect if it was written in dialect, or do you not sing it in dialect, or do you how do you what's the best way? What's the best way to honor that?
well, and then you have people who are fern like me.
Exactly.
Like, what does this guy do?
I think part of that just has to do with your comfort level of I grew up in Tennessee. I'm a Tennessee girl. Dialect is not foreign to me.
I think one or two slaves might have passed through there.
My native accent and that native accent is not very different.
Right.
I mean, there are differences, but not very many. And
right.
So, I understand it on an experiential level. So I don't feel wrong.
Right.
In that accent, in that dialect, but I understand that people who didn't grow up with it might.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to sing it not with dialect, as long as you honor the intent of the piece.
Well, one of the most fascinating experiences to me was encountering a fellow singer who was working at the time on a doctorate in music, and had never sung a spiritual.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, what countries did you study in?
Really?
These degrees. So.
But there are people who believe strongly, that white people should not sing spirituals. But I feel that as long as you understand and honor the people who wrote it, as long as you honor the intent, anybody can sing this music. It's American music.
Well, and I think it speaks.
Created it by singing it.
I think it speaks so broadly to the human condition that if there is any part of you that has experienced abuse or longing or or sought a deeper connection to some higher power than yourself,
right,
that this is music you should sing.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Agreed. 100%.
So there you have it, friends who are viewing. A black person and a white person have officially given you the blessing to go forward.
Exactly. And if my blessing and Jason's blessing are not good enough, then you should talk to Dr. Everett McCorvey, whose blessing will surely be sufficient.
Actually, he will be leading a guest lecture during Lent.
Oh.
I'm doing a Lenten series called The Negro Spiritual, Lent, and Our Difficult Days.
Wow.
So,
sounds amazing.
One paper that I worked on when I was in grad school talked about programming church music for the liturgical year, and the fact that you can program a Negro spiritual for just about every Sunday of the liturgical year.
That's about right.
So deep is their theology, even though they weren't allowed to read the book.
Exactly. And sometimes the books that they were allowed to be taught from didn't even have all the stories in them.
Well,
because they didn't want them to hear about Daniel or Moses or those people.
So your father is a preacher.
He is.
which is why you're so full of hell.
Undoubtedly.
And he's still staying safe down there in Tennessee.
He is. He's 94.
Wow.
Lives with my sister now, and yeah, he's keeping himself well.
Good.
So that's good. I'll be right back.
Okay. Where is?
I could clean up, but I'm just gonna take a load off instead.
Well, here
Like I
it
said, I'll get the scullery maid to do it later.
is. Oh, believe me, if I had one, I would pull it out myself. Now, I'm down to my last 3.
All right.
So I'm gonna just throw a little bit of garlic on this
Good idea.
and see what that does. So, how has it been for you going from teaching in person? By the way, you know, even though I went to school during the years that I did, and online learning were becoming, online classes were becoming the way to go. I never have taken an online class.
I don't blame you. I think I never took one either. So, yeah.
So, but how has it been for you and Bill transitioning from, you know, sanity to teaching online?
Well, honestly, I, being the Luddite that I am, did not create any online content. I actually met my classes via Zoom.
Uh-huh.
So we did some things differently because, you know, Zoom. But mostly we've still been, you know, in real time with our students rather than being asynchronous or something like that. The only exception to that maybe being for studio classes, a lot of the times students are pre-recording their performances.
Right.
And then we just, you know, talk about them in that way. But I think this semester we're going to try to do more live on Zoom singing.
Okay.
Obviously, nobody can sing together on Zoom because that would be manic. Because nothing happens at the same time. It's like every person on there is in a different time zone, and each time zone is like a quarter second apart from the other one. So
Right.
because of all the lag time, it's funny. But we will, I hope, have more, you know, actual singing at the time that we're meeting, which will be nice. So
Right.
basically, I've taught my lessons on Zoom, which I do not love doing, but it's better than not being able to teach lessons.
Yeah.
I really miss being in person with my students and being able to say, okay, let me help you with this jaw situation, or take a breath into my hands, or, you know.
Well, I know you miss shaking them up.
No, I'm just so, you know, I really do, because I'm a very hands-on sort of, you know, voice teacher. But
I wish I were able to find it, but somewhere on an old phone, I have a picture of you in studio class with Madeline Carruthers.
yes, that's not a chair. It's crazy, and I'm, you know, 5'5", so I was trying to hold her jaw, and I was like, yeah, so I finally just got up on a chair. I remember that photo. That's funny.
I will have to pull it up for the next time we get together online. Garlic naan.
Yes, honey. You have to tell me how that tastes.
Will do. My chicken curry is done.
Awesome.
I have to get some of the bits of garlic out of the pot. Now, are you all done? Oh, Lord, I'm just as slow as the day is long.
See, that's all right.
How did you beat me to this? Well, you've done it once or twice before.
I have. On Zoom, so I practiced.
All right, this will be my last one. And when we chatted, you mentioned you mentioned it even on this call that you do yours with fruit sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, I have put fruit in it. But you know what? I have some macerated strawberries over there, and I'm thinking of whipping up some cream and putting them on this bread with fruit.
Okay.
Like, I'm all about dessert, child.
Yeah. And this is it.
This is it.
Just so you have an idea here, I have my naan going and my chicken curry.
Oh man, that looks good.
So, well, there you have it. 2-ingredient naan. If you're lazy like me, it's like what, 3 or 4 ingredients for you with the I already ate one of mine.
No, that is good. I don't care what.
Every time I went off to the side here, that's the.
Well, the last time I made it, well, like I said, I made it with all-purpose flour, so I added some salt. To make it with regular flour. The first one I made with all-purpose flour didn't put quite enough salt in. It was a little bland, but this is perfect. So 2 teaspoons of salt with all-purpose flour and yogurt. So it's simple, 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 simple.
Okay.
And Kiri loves it.
Fabulous. Now I heard Bill say hello earlier. Is he nearby or? Oh, he's still in studio class, right?
It should be
Well,
out now.
I'm done.
Oh, here he comes.
talk about a villain's entrance. I'm done.
Hi, Jason.
Mr. Dr. K.
How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good.
You know, for folk who wouldn't know, when I was in grad school, I did a voice minor, and Mr. Dr. Koehler was my voice teacher because me and Mrs. Dr. Koehler would have gotten into too many shenanigans to ever get any lessons done.
I had a voice teacher like that. We didn't get anything done.
I'll ask you for his name when we get off the air.
Spell Johnson on.
To learn a little in the meantime, however, even though. So.
Well, I think I am just about at time here. It's 7 o'clock, and I know folks go on to. There's another J class that starts at 7.
Awesome.
Well,
Well,
so
thanks for having me.
thank you, Hope, for cooking with me. I'm gonna go put on another COVID pound or 2 or 5. And I'll have to try. I'll have to try the flour your way and see what's different about it.
Okay, it's a little denser, I think, but
Yeah.
it also stays thinner, because it doesn't rise when you cook it.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks again, and
It's fun.
we look forward to seeing you guys in person when we get to the other side of this craziness.
Your mouth to God's ears.
Amen. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thanks.